Imagine telling a parent back in 2010 that their kid learning to code was actually a significantly riskier career move than learning to fix a toilet.
Oh, they would have laughed you right out of the room. I mean, totally.
Exactly, because society had handed you this very specific map for success, right? Like, go to university, get a desk job, wear a suit, and you will find absolute security.
Yeah, that was the gold standard.
But today, you have these technology billionaires publicly stating that the plumber is actually safer than the junior programmer. The career advice that entire generations received is suddenly just pointing us right off a cliff.
It really is a profound structural realignment of the global economy. I
Mm.
mean, we're watching the very skills we were told were bulletproof become the most vulnerable to automation.
Right. And we are going straight into the data on this today. So we have two fascinating sources driving our discussion. The first is a foundational MBA thesis from 2010 by Ewort Mark Atkinson. And that one is titled Understanding the Role of Image Building in the Education Industry. And the second is an exclusive early look at Atkinson's upcoming ebook, which is called The AI-Proof Career: Why Trades Are the Future of Work.
Yeah, and reading these two documents together, it's honestly like watching a socioeconomic prophecy fulfill itself.
Wow, really?
Yeah, because the 2010 research lays out the exact psychological reasons why society devalued certain types of physical work. And then the upcoming ebook details how the artificial intelligence revolution is just violently correcting that mistake.
So our mission for this deep dive is to explore that historical stigma against vocational education, which policymakers usually refer to as TVET, or Technical and Vocational Education and Training.
Right.
We're going to examine how the AI shockwave is completely flipping that perception and why the so-called blue-collar tradesperson is rapidly emerging as like the ultimate future-proof professional. Okay, let's unpack this.
So to understand the economic shift happening right now, we first really need to look at the psychological trap we built for ourselves over the last few decades.
The 2010 mindset.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Atkinson's 2010 research focused heavily on students in Jamaica, specifically at the Montego Bay Community College and also in the Cayman Islands. He wanted to understand the mechanics of career choice, like why were bright, highly capable students actively avoiding technical and vocational tracks.
Because the natural assumption for anyone looking at labor markets would just be compensation, right? Like if people are avoiding a sector, the pay must be terrible or the jobs just don't exist.
Right, that is the logical assumption. But the data proved otherwise. The research highlighted the psychological mechanism called self-image congruence.
Self-image congruence.
Yeah, basically, humans don't just evaluate a career based on its economic utility. We evaluate it based on whether the job's public image matches our own, like, ideal self-image.
Oh, I see.
So students in 2010 weren't rejecting the trades because of a lack of financial opportunity. They were rejecting the status image attached to the work.
It makes me think about how we signal identity. You know, it's like wearing a vintage band T-shirt for a band you don't even listen to, just so the people at the coffee shop think you have cool alternative taste.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
These students weren't really evaluating a career. They were choosing a social costume to wear for their peers.
What's fascinating here is how Atkinson defines the undesired self. It is a incredibly powerful motivator.
How so?
Well, the students weren't just drawn to the prestige of an office. They were actually terrified of being associated with the perceived failure of the trades. The research documented this deeply ingrained caste consciousness in the post-colonial education system.
Wow.
There's a telling quote from a research participant named Christopher who said, "The lawyers and the doctors are generally who people look up to. The mason, they would probably look on him as a common man."
That reveals a lot about the reference groups pulling the strings in the background. If your parents and teachers view a mason as a common man, you're going to do anything to avoid that label.
Completely.
Atkinson actually found 11 core negative perceptions about vocational tracks, including this widespread belief that TVET was purely a backup option or like a remedial track for students who were just not book smart.
Yes, society essentially weaponized academic tracks as the sole indicator of intelligence. If you could memorize and synthesize information easily, you were pushed toward a university degree.
Right.
But if you struggled with standardized testing, you were handed a wrench. Vocational work was branded as dirty, physically strenuous, and just utterly lacking in social prestige.
Which created a massive self-inflicted economic wound. I mean, the 2010 research points to a vocational rich list in the UK.
Oh, yeah, that part was eye-opening.
Right. It showed that a significant portion of self-made millionaires were consistently making their fortunes in construction, plumbing, and electrical work. The wealth was always there. But society willingly traded that wealth for the status of an office job.
We starved our physical infrastructure of talent just to look smart in a suit.
Exactly. It's wild.
And this resulted in what economists might call an academic detour. We funneled our brightest, most capable minds into producing this massive surplus of literary-based administrative professionals. And that historical pursuit of white-collar status has really become our greatest vulnerability today.
Because right as we hollowed out our physical workforce, Silicon Valley figured out how to automate the exact intellectual tasks we were running toward. Which brings us to the AI shockwave.
We are experiencing the great labor inversion. I mean, for decades, the skills we used to gatekeep professional status, synthesizing massive amounts of data, drafting legal documents, copywriting, basic coding, those were considered high-level intellectual work.
Right, the safe jobs.
Exactly. Generative AI has turned that hierarchy completely upside down because those precise administrative and cognitive tasks are exactly what machine learning algorithms execute best.
Think about the AI tools you might use at your own job right now. The ebook actually cites data from McKinsey and the World Economic Forum showing that 60% of occupations have at least 30% of their activities susceptible to automation.
Yeah.
But the displacement risk isn't evenly distributed, is it? It's overwhelmingly targeted at white-collar roles. The junior financial analysts, the paralegals, the middle management administrators.
And the mechanism driving this is something robotics engineers call more of X paradox. It explains why the AI shockwave is hitting the office and not the construction site.
Okay, break that down for us.
So Moravec's paradox states that high-level reasoning requires very little computation, but low-level sensoromotor skills require enormous computational resources.
Meaning what is incredibly hard for humans is trivially easy for AI, and vice versa.
Precisely. To understand why, you have to look at evolutionary biology. Human sensoromotor skills, walking, balancing, feeling the tension of a wire that took hundreds of millions of years of evolution to perfect, it's deeply complex subconscious processing.
Right.
Abstract logic and mathematics, however, are very recent human inventions. They rely on strict rules. And because they're rules-based, they're incredibly easy to program into a machine. Synthesizing 10,000 pages of financial data takes an AI seconds.
But the physical stuff is a different story.
Exactly. Ask an AI robot to walk across an uneven, cluttered floor or, thread a wire through the unpredictable architecture of a century-old building, and the machine completely fails.
I hear that, but I have to play devil's advocate for a moment here, because the traditional narrative in the tech sector is always about upskilling, right?
Sure.
If an AI takes a data entry or junior analyst job, the assumption is that the displaced office worker will simply learn to program the AI or pivot into a higher level tech role. Doesn't the market just correct itself?
Well, the ebook directly dismantles that. They call it the reemployment assumption. The data indicates that the retraining timelines for complex tech roles are simply too long, and the financial runway for displaced mid-career workers is just too short.
Ah, I see.
You cannot seamlessly pivot a 45-year-old human resources administrator into a machine learning engineer via a 6-week boot camp.
Yeah.
Technology leaders themselves are sounding the alarm on this. I mean, Bill Gates has publicly noted that plumbers and electricians possess significantly more career resilience right now than entry-level programmers.
It is a stunning reversal. The very physical unpredictability that made trades seem low status and dirty in Atkinson's 2010 research is now their ultimate competitive advantage.
Exactly.
An AI algorithm can diagnose an engine fault from a digital sensor instantly, but it cannot reach a physical hand into the engine block, feel the resistance of a rusted bolt, and improvise a physical solution using leverage and experience.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it really changes how we evaluate career longevity. The physical world is messy, it's unstructured, and highly variable. Algorithms require structured data. Therefore, anchoring your career in the physical world is the absolute strongest defense against automation.
But there's another layer to this, and here's where it gets really interesting. It is not just that trades are surviving the AI revolution.
Right.
AI is actively giving tradespeople the exact white-collar administrative power they were previously told they lacked.
Yes. This is the core thesis of the upcoming ebook, The AI-Proof Career. We are entering the era of the AI-enabled tradesperson, or the craft-tech hybrid.
The sources offer two incredible case studies that span this timeline. First, there's a story from the 2010 thesis about a student named Owen B.
Oh, Owen. Yeah.
He was studying management information systems, but his goal was to mix business, computing, and physical operations to make organizations run efficiently. He was a vocational student, essentially outlining the hybrid model 15 years
He
early.
was way ahead of his time.
And the ebook contrasts his foresight with a modern example, Elena. She was a data scientist, which is arguably the most prestigious tech job of the last decade. But she watched AI begin to eat her entry-level analytical tasks.
Yep.
So she realized her screen-based job was vulnerable, and she pivoted into medical imaging technology.
Elena recognized the paradox.
No.
She moved into a role that still demanded high-level technical intelligence, but fundamentally required her physical presence, to operate complex machinery and manage the human clinical dimensions of patient care.
Right.
She protected her cognitive skills by wrapping them in a physical, human-in-the-loop requirement.
It's a brilliant strategy. If you think about the modern artisan entrepreneur, AI acts as the ultimate administrative power tool.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Just as moving from a manual handsaw to an electric circular saw made physical labor exponentially faster, generative AI automates the invisible, desk-based labor of running a trade business.
Historically, the growth ceiling for a skilled carpenter or an independent electrician was their administrative capacity.
Hmm.
They would spend 8 hours on a job site generating revenue, but then they had to go home and spend 4 hours doing stationary, unbillable work.
Ugh, the worst part.
Drafting invoices, writing compliance reports, managing supply chain logistics, and quoting new jobs. They were basically forced to do 2 full-time jobs, which naturally limited their earning potential.
But today, that solo electrician can leverage a large language model to do all of that heavy lifting. The AI can instantly draft the vendor contracts, generate the municipal compliance reports, handle client scheduling via chatbots, and even produce highly polished marketing copy.
Exactly.
The tradesperson is no longer just the laborer on the ground. By eliminating the administrative bottleneck, they effectively become the CEO of a highly scalable operation without needing to hire a massive back-office staff.
Which completely erodes the status divide we discussed from 2010. The AI-enabled tradesperson now commands the digital sophistication, operational efficiency, and professional presentation that society used to assume only came with a 4-year university degree.
Right.
They've mastered a physical craft that AI cannot touch, while simultaneously deploying AI to optimize the office layer. It creates an incredibly lucrative, highly resilient business model.
If the economic reality has shifted this dramatically, we have to look at the systems guiding the next generation. If you are a parent listening to this right now or a student plotting out your future, why are the guidance counselors at your local high school still aggressively pushing the university or bust narrative?
Well, this brings us to the strategic blueprint outlined in the ebook, the institutional pivot. For decades, training agencies and governments, particularly in regions like the Caribbean, have inadvertently positioned vocational training as remedial service.
Yeah.
Atkinson argues that agencies like Jamaica's Heart Trust, NTA, and other regional bodies urgently need to utilize this new AI reality to rebrand TVET. The ebook calls for aggressive brand revitalization.
Because if institutions continue marketing vocational training as the safety net for kids who fail their academic exams, they are fundamentally failing to prepare their workforce for the modern AI autonomy.
They're operating on an outdated paradigm, and we know this cultural narrative can be rewritten because global models already exist.
Like where?
The institutional blueprint points heavily to Switzerland and Germany. In the Swiss model, approximately 65% of school leavers choose vocational education and training. But the mechanics of their system are entirely different. They don't choose it as a fallback. They choose it as an aspirational pathway.
So how does that actually work mechanically? Like, how do you achieve that parity of esteem where a plumbing apprenticeship is respected equally to a university track?
It works because the corporate and business sectors heavily fund and drive the curriculum. In Germany's dual apprenticeship system, students learn the theoretical framework in a classroom, but they are actively employed and paid by a company to apply that theory in the real world immediately.
That makes so much sense.
Right. The training is directly tied to market demand, meaning students graduate with no debt, significant practical experience, high starting wages, and genuine social prestige. The system mathematically proves the value of the trade.
But implementing that requires changing the minds of the people who hold the keys to a student's future. The ebook tells a fascinating story about a guidance counselor named Sandra. She realized her entire advisory script was completely backward.
Sandra is a perfect example of targeting the reference groups. For 15 years, she operated on the 2010 mindset. She told the students with top grades to go to university and subtly directed the students who struggled academically toward the trades.
Yep, the classic approach.
But once she reviewed the data on AI automation risk and Moravec's paradox, she completely overhauled her methodology. She stopped relying on emotional appeals and started showing her students, and crucially, their parents, the raw economic data.
So she showed them the automation risk percentages for white-collar roles contrasted with the actual earnings and career stability of AI-enabled tradespeople.
Yes, and that data-driven approach actually drove high academic, highly capable students into vocational tracks. Because when you treat students and parents like intelligent decision makers and show them the actual economic landscape, they follow the logic.
Wow.
Atkinson stresses that governments and institutions must target these reference groups, the parents and the teachers, because they are the ones unknowingly carrying the 2010 stigma into the present day. You have to prove to them that the trades are a path to absolute economic sovereignty, not a dead end.
So, what does this all mean for you, the listener, whether you are managing your own career or advising someone else's? First, if you are a student or someone looking to pivot industries, understand that the trades are not your fallback option. They are your strategic advantage in an automated world.
Absolutely.
Anchoring your daily work in the unpredictable physical environment is the ultimate competitive moat against algorithms. And if you are a parent, the advice you absorbed 20 years ago about the inherent prestige of the air-conditioned office is fundamentally outdated. The business suit is no longer the unambiguous symbol of security. The tools are.
This raises one final, really provocative question, building on a critical data point from Atkinson's ebook regarding the green economy.
Oh, right.
The global transition to renewable energy, building out solar grids, installing wind turbines, upgrading national power infrastructures that is projected to require 15 million net new jobs in Latin America and the Caribbean alone by 2030.
15 million.
Every single one of those jobs requires complex, physical, cognitive, human-in-the-loop execution. An algorithm simply cannot wire a smart grid or install a rooftop solar array. So as we watch millions of mid-level white-collar jobs get optimized and automated into oblivion, we have to ask, are we witnessing the dawn of an era where the blue-collar tradesperson effectively becomes the new ruling economic class?
Wow.
While the traditional white-collar desk worker becomes the new gig worker, constantly scrambling to prove their worth against an ever-improving AI algorithm.
That is a staggering shift in power dynamics to consider. It really makes you realize that the old career map society handed down to us is obsolete. It might be time to stop looking for the corner office, put on some work boots, and build a completely new road yourself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.